Welcome to Insight on the NTA. On Insight today, we shall be looking at an appraisal of the second Regional Security Summit, which held in Abuja. And coming back to back, the Nigeria Summit on National Security 2016 is also underway, and that summit is trying to look at confronting and containing threats and terrorism and sectarian insurgency. That will be on our discussion segment. On interview segment on Insight today, we will be looking at what really can be done to bring a pool of solving issues of peace building as a result of the security strategies on ground. And as usual, on the media review segment today, Eunice Tukura will be taking us on that. Eunice, what do we have on the media review segment?
Yes, indeed. Hello, viewers. It's another wonderful episode of your favorite talk program, Insight, your one-stop program where we bring you burning issues where they are brought to the fore. And on the media review segment today, we'll be talking about the media coverage of the fuel subsidy removal. And you would agree with me that this is quite an issue that is affecting the vast majority of Nigerians, hence the need to look into it. And so you definitely should stay tuned. My guest is a newspaper publisher. You get to meet him on the segment. Don't go anywhere. Just stay tuned.
Indeed, don't go anywhere. It promises to be very insightful. That will be about that the size of the program today as I link you up quickly to the discussion segment on Insight. Don't go away. It's good to have you join me on this segment on Insight, and today we are looking holistically at security issues. The second regional security meeting has ended in Abuja. The meeting appraised how well the Nigerian military and indeed the multinational joint task force comprised of Chad, Cameroon, Benin Republic, Niger, and indeed Nigeria, how well they have functioned. And at the end of that summit, 4 core areas were arrived at on the way forward. One of it is the fact that Boko Haram, for it to be completely disseminated in Nigeria, Libya is key to it. The other aspect of it is that the Chibok girl debacle is still haunting Nigeria. And also the European Union also saw the need or the fact that Nigeria should look beyond insurgency and also concentrate on the herdsmen clash and what is coming up from the Niger Delta. Just at the end of that summit, another summit, the Nigeria Summit on National Security 2016, is on the way. This summit is going to attract dignitaries, heads within the security circles to discuss the way forward. How best can this be handled within Nigeria, West African sub-region, and indeed Africa and the world? To discuss this, I have on set the Director General of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Professor Oshita. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Also on set, and indeed one of the resource persons at that summit, is Professor John Ifediora. Professor John Ifediora is Director and Editor-in-Chief, Council on African Security and Development. You're welcome to Insight.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Beautiful. A lot of concerns were raised when Nigeria was to host the Second Security Summit. It has come and gone, and yet this one you're coming up with, Nigeria Summit on National Security 2016. What is it all about?
Well, the Nigeria Summit on National Security is part of the effort for us as Nigerians to get the right solutions to the predicament that we have found ourselves as a result of the insecurity brought about by Boko Haram activities. Now, the thing is that the kind of challenges that we have require comprehensive, approach in dealing with them. And that's why we are having the Nigeria Summit on National Security, which is going to have a lot of academics, diplomats, policy makers of international repute, to come here for us to share experiences with them so that we can borrow a leaf from what has happened elsewhere, the best practices that have happened elsewhere. Because we have to, convince ourselves at this point that the problem with insecurity in Nigeria is not going to be solved by just defeating Boko Haram. The main issue is how to reposition the various devastated aspects of our economy and, the human, persons that have been negatively impacted by this insurgency. So that's why we are putting together this the Nigerian Summit on National Security. We recognize the enormous achievements that the second Summit on Regional Security has achieved, and we are aware of the recommendations and all that. But you see, we need more and more exploratory work around the issue of the solutions, to the problems in Nigeria, especially as we are moving into the post-conflict reconstruction stage, because we need to take into consideration not only the physical infrastructure, but how to rebuild the persons, individuals, and their psychology that have been impacted negatively as a result of the narratives of, the Boko Haram.
Okay, explorative approach to finding solutions to it. What are the focal areas this summit will be looking at, Prof?
Well, thank you so much. This is an interesting program, and you've done a very good job in taking the first step to ask the right questions. Well, keep in mind that the key issues here are quite complex. The root causes of insurgency are multidimensional. So when you have the summit held on the 14th, dealing with aspects of what to do with these jihadist groups, how to contain them, how to neutralize them, and how to move forward to rehabilitate those who have actually renounced their affiliation with the jihadist group and to be reintegrated into society. How do we do that? But first of all, what we are doing here in this summit is to determine of all the competing theories as to the causes of insurgency. Well, you name it. It could be religiously inspired. It could be because of the resignation of disaffected people. It could be poverty, bad education, no education, lack of access to good public service. All these things could very well motivate and inspire groups to join any particular organization that can promise them a way forward. And so once you identify the root causes, then the solution will come into place. And you must realize that you can't kill our way to peace. Using muscular intervention has its place. But so does diplomacy. So does dialogue. And in which case, if we understand why these groups, these young men and women, are willing to kill themselves, then it becomes easier to address their needs. For the simple reason that anyone who wants to die, who's prepared to die, is perhaps the worst enemy you want to have. What can you do to them? Now, how should we as a society address those needs? Now, keep in mind, in spite of the brutality they've inflicted on our society, they are still human beings. These are individuals. And we have to deal with them as such. The human rights matter. And what complicates the effort against the war against terror here is because we have to balance the human needs rights of those individuals involved and the civilians who may be collateral damage or, in a way compromised in this war against these jihadist groups. So if you have to counterbalance the rights of civilians and even the rights of the terrorists, who by and large are human beings, it becomes a very complex issue. Yeah. And those things have to be dealt with systematically and comprehensively.
Okay. Yeah. Well, naturally, when conversations of this magnitude are going to be held, people are looking at expectations. And if the expectations are arrived and achieved, the question is, what is the way forward? And most often, we have always had convergence like this hold, and at the end, it amounts to just talk, and no work. Would there be a difference this time around?
Definitely there will be a difference. Because, I mean, if you have watched what is happening, you know, for some time now, you would see that all institutions of government and some civil society groups and development partners are all, you know, focusing on, you know, implementable, you know, actions, okay. You know, things that you can implement in the context of, you know, post-conflict reconstruction in the Northeast. Now, what we are trying to do is to develop a new set of, you know, solutions that we can put on the table that will be added with those that have been generated from other fora, so that we now have a complete set of, you know, toolbox that will be applied in the Northeast. Because we don't want to make a mistake. Like I said on another platform, if you don't get post-conflict reconstruction right, you are simply nurturing a new set of dynamics that will throw up even more serious challenges than we are coming out of. So we want to get it right. We must get, you know, we must bring in peace building into the reconstruction process. We are not dealing with, you know, just inanimate things. It's not about building houses and restoring physical infrastructure. It's also about correcting the mindset, creating a new and positive narrative that will give the people hope that they will no longer be vulnerable to those who want to recruit them into, you know, disruptive, you know, activities, the way we have noticed in the past few years. Okay. So it's a complete whole kind of thing. So I think that this is going to be different because everyone is conscious that today it is the Northeast. If we don't deal with this well, it could be another geopolitical zone. And so we must get it right. And that's why this summit is tailored towards getting the right, you know, solutions, you know, for the problem in the Northeast. And so I don't think that's going to be all about talk. If you notice, some of the dignitaries that are coming are people that are very experienced. If you have somebody like Rasmussen, who was a NATO Secretary General, then you know that he's a consummate diplomat and, you know, an intellectual who has seen it all, you know, across the world. So we hope to have the experiences of people like that put on the table. There are many other people who have had hands-on experiences on issues of insurgency in other parts of the world. So we want to harvest these ideas and use them to solve our problems in Nigeria with proper adaptation. Okay,
it's possible if you have this kind of a platform set, and you don't drop it with the proper focal persons, the whole thing will be like a wild goose chase. So who are the kind of person we are expected to be part of this summit? Beyond just the resource persons, who are we going to be talking with?
Well, you have academics who've studied this issue for a long time. You have policymakers who've struggled with the problem for years. You have military personnel who have been in the forefront, engaged intensively in this effort to suppress and neutralize. You also have religious leaders who are coming with a different perspective and try to correct the notion that this is not strictly driven by religious ideology, as many people believe. That by and large, they say, well, you have a group of jihadists that takes you back to centuries, for instance, of all kinds of religious movements to get an upper hand in terms of your own religious affiliation. We saw that in the Christian Crusade. Is this the same thing? Is it happening here again? So these religious leaders will be there to dispel that notion that this movement you're seeing now is not strictly religious inspired. That you may have, and we have economists who will be in the audience and panelists. So you have a panoply of experts who will bring to bear their own expert knowledge on the issue. Okay. Because what we're dealing with here is multidimensional. The sources are complex, and so must be the solution applied to solve the problem.
How many days will this summit hold?
It's a 2-day summit.
When and when?
On the 25th of May and 26th of May.
Okay, beautiful. Moving forward, all what we are talking about boils down to peace building. And a lot of these guys, they have returned. Some are still being held hostage. And when they come back, their mindset is completely disoriented. Now, if you don't inject a mindset reorientation within whatever we are doing, no matter what you're trying to do, you amount to an open-ended crisis. So let me throw it to the two of you now. The mindset reoriented concept package in it, how are you going to drive it?
Now, that is exactly one of the things that we were saying earlier, that part of the tools that we have in the toolbox that, will come out of this, because we are aware that these people are coming out as victims. Victims have been traumatized. They must be treated, because they would have the syndrome we call post-traumatic stress disorder. And, there are specialists who can deal with that. We have to, deal with that mindset and bring them back to, normal citizens, because they were victims. And we have to be careful how we receive them. We don't have to receive them and give them the impression that they are suffering from double victimization. Sometimes the references that we make to them matter. I have listened up to this morning the reference to one of the Chibok girls that has been rescued, Amina Ali, and the reference to the husband as terrorist husband. I think that is a very refer to him as an abductor, because we do not know if he himself was a victim. If he was simply, he will have been victimized, and now we are also victimizing him because we have not listened to him. So these are delicate issues that we have to navigate carefully so that we can have these people, the empathy that they desire from us, they can see that coming. And so we have experts who, in the whole project of reconstruction, that will deal with this aspect, in treating the human persons while the physical development is also going on, so that they will have convenient environment to come back to or to go back to.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
You see, keep in mind that what many people think is that